Hello and welcome to Grognard Solo Gaming. I am the Grognard and today we are continuing with Curse of Strahd. But before we get started, there is one quick thing I'm going to mention, and that is that I have decided to remove the party's hit points from the screen. I still use them normally while I'm playing, but from now on damages are going to be presented through descriptions in the story only. So, without further ado, let's return to the village of Barovia to find out what happens during the second day of the census, as the group continues going door to door in the village. The party and their 3 allies start by making their way north to pick up Donovich. Outside, the Barovian morning is dark, damp and cold, and the decaying houses are still able to hide their sad old facades in the mist. As the group makes its way, the village is empty, and the only sound they hear is their own feet trudging along on the muddy street. Everyone is vigilant, looking for any signs of trouble, but only Seraphine sees another living creature. Under a half-ruined porch, among rotting debris, the sorceress sees a group of rats gnawing on the carcass of a black cat. She wants to make a comment to Irina, but everyone is walking in silence, and she realizes none of the humans would be able to see the animals in the darkness anyway. Once they reach the church and Donovich joins them, Friedrich suggests that the Jarov boy should come too, to help dispose of the dead rats. The former priest simply says, "Yes, master," and the boy, much like before, seems happy to be given a task. On their way from the church, Friedrich speaks to Ismark and Parpol, and once they reach the place where they left off the day before, the second day is much like the first one. Ismark, Friedrich, Donovich and Parpol visit the houses where people are living, while everyone except Donovich enters the houses that are infested with zombies or rats. The cleric writes down the name and age of all the people and the professions of all the adults. And he also continues work on a rudimentary map where he writes down the names of the streets and the numbers of the houses. And after the houses have been visited, Janosch paints their number on the front door. When the bright patch in the overcast sky, that is all that can be seen of the sun, indicates it is midday, Friedrich evaluates the group's progress. He counts a total of 20 visited houses, 23 destroyed zombies, and he estimates they have killed a few hundred rats. Realizing everyone is going to need to eat soon, and that they could do with a break from swinging their weapons, the cleric sends Donovich, Seraphine, Irina and the paladins to the graves east of the village. The sorceress is to fill the graves that have bodies in them, as well as any holes that are full of rats, all while the former priest is to speak to any villagers that are present, to promise them future rituals for the buried, and to invite them to the church. Once that is done, the cleric gathers the rest of the group and waits until Lucian leaves with another sack of dead rats. The 4 men look at each other. Everyone knows what comes next, and everyone knows it's not going to be pretty. But it has to be done. Friedrich leads the others to the 13th house on Glaive Street, the only house they skipped the day before. It takes almost a full minute after the cleric has knocked the first time, before the pale and sickly-looking man of the house opens the door a few inches and looks out with dead eyes. "Yes?" is all he has the time to say before the cleric gestures for Parpol to take action. The sheriff immediately yanks the door open, grabs the man and pushes him inside. The other 3 men quickly follow, and Janosch, who is last to enter, looks up and down the street before he closes the door behind them. The witch hunter isn't sure, but there might have been someone or something looking out from between the houses to the east. He goes to look out through a window, but they are much too thick and dirty for him to see anything, and so he returns his attention to the hallway, where Friedrich is looking at the man of the house, who is more or less dangling in the sheriff's chokehold. "So, Mr. Jarov, time has finally caught up with you. Where is your wife?" Mr. Jarov, whose mouth is covered by one of Parpol's enormous hands, looks towards the stairs to the 2nd floor to indicate his wife's whereabouts. Friedrich nods. "Mrs. Jarov, come down here." The woman, who is as gaunt and sickly looking as her husband, appears at the top of the stairs and gasps at the sight of the unknown men and how her husband hangs helplessly in Parpol's grip. Friedrich gestures for Mrs. Jarov to walk down the stairs. "Come on, there is no escaping this. You would only make it worse for yourself and your husband." Though it seemed an almost impossible thing, the Barovian woman manages to become even paler as she descends the stairs on her shaky legs. What is this all about? What are you doing to my husband?" Ismark takes a deep breath and says, "I am the new burgomaster after my father, Kolyan Indirovich's tragic passing a few days ago. You and your husband stand accused of having traded your child to a demon for a pie." The Barovian woman shakes her head. "What? No, that's absurd. We have done no such thing. We have no children. Tell them, dear." The visibly panic-stricken woman looks at her husband, who is still unable to speak. Friedrich takes a step towards the woman. "I am glad you are innocent, Mrs. Jarov, as I will pray for the truth, and after that you will be unable to tell even a single lie. So just answer the question again in a moment, and we'll apologize and take our leave." The woman looks dizzy and reaches for the wall for support as Friedrich prays aloud to Sathramelin, while making the scriptural hand gestures for Rego and Mentem to control the woman's mind and force her to tell the truth. Once the spell has taken effect, the cleric looks at the woman who has begun to sweat and asks, "Mrs. Jarov, did you trade your son Lucian for 2 pies?" The woman struggles to say no, but the prayer prevents her from opening her mouth to speak the lie. Her eyes dart around the room, revealing her desperation, but she remains unable to speak and falls to her knees on the floor. She eventually lowers her head and says, Yes, we did." She looks up at Friedrich. "And I cried my last tear. I am an absolute monster, and yet I cannot cry, not for my child, not even for my own wretched self." She violently rubs her eyes with her fingertips and then looks at them before holding them up, as if to show the cleric they are dry. Friedrich remains silent for a moment, then he says, "I am loath to ask, but how many children have you traded for pies?" Mrs. Jarov slumps further down on the floor and simply stares vacuously in front of herself. Without looking up, she raises the index finger on her right hand. "You have to say it. Gestures do not count." The woman shakes her head. Friedrich looks at Parple and nods, and the sheriff starts strangling the man in his grip. Mr. Jarov claws at his captor's arms in a futile struggle to free himself. At first, the Barovian woman stares at her husband with wide eyes. Then, as he starts to turn blue and his struggle turns into a panicked flailing, she looks away and shakes her head. The sheriff turns to the cleric to see if he is going to give a signal for him to let go of the nearly dead man, as the woman seems to be willing to let her husband die rather than answer the question. But the cleric gives no signal and simply stares at the woman on the floor as her husband goes quiet and limp in Parple's chokehold. The cleric grabs the woman by her hair and forces her to look up, shouting, "How many children?" It is clear she is struggling to say 1, but the prayer is stopping her. Friedrich raises his mace. "How many?" 5. The woman pulls free and ends up lying on the floor. 5. We have traded all 5 of our children for the old woman's pies. Friedrich turns to Ismark. The burgomaster says nothing and looks away. His face is blank as he seemingly looks for something to say, but he remains silent, shakes his head, and walks outside. Parple looks disgusted and throws the dead Mr. Jarov in front of his wife. Then he mumbles, "Just kill her," before he turns away and walks after the burgomaster. The cleric turns to Janosch, who looks at him and says, "Suffer not the heretic to live." Mrs. Jarov starts crawling towards the stairs, and Friedrich turns his attention back to her. The cleric clenches his teeth and takes a deep breath. "Hear this, Mrs. Jarov. I pray to Almighty Sathramelin that you have at least a shred of your soul left, so I can send you to hell to receive the eternal torment you deserve." The cleric raises his mace again, and this time he brings it down on the woman just as she turns around to look at him. Her eyes widen and she tries to cry out, probably for mercy, but it's too late. The mace lands, hitting her in the face with a grotesque sound that is a mixture of rupturing skin and cracking bones. Again and again, Friedrich strikes the woman's head with his mace until it is just a stomach-turning pulp that splashes onto the floor, walls, and ceiling. At that point, Janosch moves in and grabs his captain's arm. "It is done!" For a second, the cleric struggles against the witch hunter's attempt to stop him, and as he looks up from the bloody mess, that just seconds ago was Mrs. Jarov. His eyes are still burning with hatred. Her punishment is beyond us now. Friedrich lowers his mace and lets go of the dead woman. Then he takes a deep breath and relaxes his face. When he looks back at Janosch, he once again looks like his usual calm and collected self, except for the blood spray on his arms, chest and face. The witch hunter releases his captain's arm. You should probably get cleaned up before the others return. I will deal with the bodies, wrap them in cloth for Ivan and the others to take to the graveyard. The cleric doesn't say anything but simply nods and leaves the house. The witch hunter searches the house and finds sheets, blankets and rope to use. He also finds 2 rooms containing children's clothes and toys with 2 beds in each one. He doesn't really want to think about the grotesque fate of the jar of children, but he can't help himself as he wraps up the bodies. Is this the only house where this has happened? Knowing Barovia, probably not. And what drug or enchantment was in the pies to make parents trade their own children for them? Morgantha would know the answer. And knowing that things like this are happening, is Strahd von Sarovich really the real monster? Janosch doesn't know, but he does know that there is going to be an unholy amount of graves in Barovia before the soldiers of Sathramelin are done with the place. Meanwhile, east of the village, Seraphine has finished filling the graves, and she and Irina have found a good spot by the side of the road to sit down and eat. Donovich has been speaking to some villagers who are making rudimentary sun crosses for the graves, and now he's shuffling his way over to the women. Seraphine notices that the former priest looks at the paladins, who are keeping watch from a bit of a distance, several times on his way. His behavior makes her a bit suspicious, but she isn't really worried about the old man and simply nudges Irina to make her aware he is approaching. Donovich bows deeply and clumsily.
Holy One, forgive my intrusion.
Mr. Donovich, we talked about this yesterday. Just call me Seraphine or Lady Seraphine if you must, please.
Yes, Lady Seraphine, I am sorry. I will do as you command.
Even if the old man is looking at the ground, the sorceress makes an effort not to roll her eyes. She takes a deep breath. It's not a command, I'm simply asking you...
Yes, of course. 1,000 apologies, Lady Seraphine. Please forgive me.
You really don't need my... You know what? Never mind. You are forgiven, Mr. Donovich. How can I help you?
Your holy book, Lady Seraphine. When I saw the writing, I knew I had seen it before. Here.
The old man reaches into his satchel and brings out a half-rotten mess that looks like it was once a book.
I am sorry. I tried to clean it, but it didn't go very well.
He holds the mess out to Seraphine, who notices stains on the old man's robes, where he clearly used them to try to wipe the rotten book clean. Oh, that's very nice of you, Mr. Donovich. The sorceress quickly conjures her golden hand made of magical force and takes the rotten book from the old man's hand. Thank you. She proceeds to clean and mend the book with her cantrips and also removes the book stains from Donovich's robes while she's at it. The former priest, who is still looking at the ground, starts bowing again as the smell of lemon reaches his nostrils and he becomes aware of Seraphine having helped him.
1,000 thank yous, Lady Seraphine. I will not bother you anymore.
Thank you, Mr. Donovich. We'll see you in the village in a while. The old man shuffles off towards the west, and Seraphine turns to Irina, who is smiling. Holy One, she says and laughs. I know it makes you uncomfortable, but he is trying. I think he seems like a sweet old man. Seraphine nods. Yeah, I guess. I'm just not big on titles. She flips through the pages of the now clean remains of the book, and it is indeed written in Celestial. Interesting. I will look at this later. She puts it next to her Liber Sanctus. Irina sits down on a rock and brings out some bread and cheese from her shoulder bag. What is it like for you? The church, I mean. Is there anything that's troublesome? I'm probably not the right person to ask. It has been my whole life and I'm an Asimai. Like an angel person, right? Seraphine laughs. As much as I want to say no, you're not wrong. Angel person pretty much sums it up, yeah. I was born in an abbey and raised by nuns, though I kind of wish... The sorceress sighs. I kind of wish I had been raised in one of the warrior temples. Irina nods. What's the difference, and why weren't you? The nuns were all civilians. They had very little martial training. I was kept there because I had magical powers, and I was supposed to develop them. It didn't go great, to be honest, and now... Seraphine looks over at the paladins. Well, you can say there are two sides to Sethramelin, the Keeper of the Light and the Destroyer of Darkness, and the Destroyer of Darkness is the military side, and I'm not great at that. I find it easier to just keep the light, I guess, but I also realize you can't have one without the other. What are you talking about? You're great at killing rats and zombies with your magic missiles. Thanks, but it's a cantrip, Holy Blast. It's technically the weakest kind of magic. And think about yesterday. When that woman came running out of the tavern, the plan was for me to catch her with a net, but Gottfried was so much faster, I'm not even sure I would have managed. And was that why Gottfried killed her? Because he realized I would fail? Irina uncorks her water skin. I'm not so sure about that, but you really shouldn't blame yourself. Those old witches were clearly spies of the Bloodsucker. The Barovian woman waves her hand in the direction of Castle Ravenloft. Seraphine nods. I guess it just feels like I'm bad at my job, like I'm not filling my role. I mean, I felt like my suggestion was the right one, like it was common sense, but then Friedrich was right and your brother got slashed for it. Irina finishes drinking water and puts her water skin back as she says, I really don't think you should blame yourself for that. And Friedrich had already healed him by the time we entered the tavern. It was fine. Thank you for trying to make me feel better, and I don't know if this was any help to you. I really just talked about what I struggle with, and it probably won't be the same for you. I think you're more of a no-nonsense person. Irina laughs. You mean I'm cold-hearted? No, that's not what I meant. I just get the feeling you have an easier time making hard decisions. I was only joking, but things being the way they are, it's sometimes hard to care about anything. Is there anything else about the church? Seraphine shakes her head. Not that I can think of. To me, it's quite literally my family, and it does a lot of good. I mean, just look at the changes Friedrich has made us achieve in your village already. Yes, it's quite impressive. No one has achieved anything like it, at least not in my lifetime. Irina looks at Seraphine's bag. I know you don't sleep, but have you stopped eating too? The sorceress smiles. No, I'll eat on the way. I just wanted to sit down for a bit. Come on, you can tell me your thoughts about the church while we walk back to the village. Of course. I have to ask, though. I never really tell anyone this, but I have always been very fascinated by magic. But, well, there's nowhere to study it around here, and I really like all the things you can do. The magical bolts, the golden hand, reattaching the pages of the book, even how you can clean things just by waving your hand. Is there any chance you could teach me? Even just one little spell? Seraphine can see a rare light of hope in her friend's eyes, and it makes her heart hurt a little, as she knows the answer is no. I'm sorry, Irina. I was born with my magic, and the rest comes from surrender and devotion to Sethramelin. I can't teach it to you, no matter how much I would want to. Oh, I see. That's okay. I should probably have realized. But we have that in common. I also always wanted to study magic, because the powers I was born with never really developed much, but wizardry is forbidden in the church, so it was never a possibility, unfortunately. Irina sighs. I guess that's out of the question for me too, then. Seraphine nods. Yeah, I'm afraid it wouldn't be a good idea, but, She pauses and looks at Irina. I can't promise anything, but I might have found a way around it. Really? The Barovian woman's eyes light up again. How? Is it safe? I think so, but I need more time studying my book before I can be sure, and I don't know what the others are going to say or think. I'll let you know as soon as I figure it out. Irina smiles at her friend. Please do. Maybe we can study magic together. Yeah, you know what? I really like that idea. The sorceress says and waves to the paladins, indicating it's time to go back to the village. As soon as Janosch steps out of what used to be the jar of residence, the witch hunter gets the feeling someone is watching him. Looking up and down the street, he sees none of his allies, but 7 houses to the east, he can see a head sticking out. Without stopping or taking a second look, Janosch pretends not to have noticed anything and casually walks the other way. But as soon as he is out of sight, he doubles back and moves swiftly between the houses. Entering the alley where he saw the head from the south, he can see the silhouette of a man at the other end. Upon closer inspection, he looks like an average Barovian man, except for the fact that he wears glasses and is holding a book. From the lack of weapons, armor, or wizarding paraphernalia, and above all his obvious nervousness, Janosch concludes he has nothing to fear from the man and sneaks up on him. The witch hunter still draws his short sword, however, and hides it under his cloak before he says, "Can I help you?" The man yelps and jumps some 3 feet away from Janosch. "Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you."
"Who are you and why have you been watching us?"
"Ah, yes, terribly sorry. My name is Terembor. Yes, and I guess you are killing the zombies, aren't you?"
"Among other things, yes."
"Oh, well, okay. So there are things I need to tell you. Could I have a moment of your time?" Janosch moves out of the alley and looks for the others, just as Friedrich comes out of the tavern. The witch hunter waves and points to the man calling himself Terembor. To reply, the cleric makes a dismissive gesture and shouts that Janosch has to deal with it himself, as they have to continue going door to door. The witch hunter gives a thumbs up and turns back to the man in spectacles.
"Right. I guess it's just us then, Terembor. So, what can I do for you?"
It's fairly sensitive. Can we step inside?"
"Sure. This house has been cleared of zombies."
The 2 men enter the empty building with a white 26 painted on it. Terembor finds a kitchen and sits down by the table, placing his book in front of him. "This is difficult. It's a strange subject, and there's the issue of the you know."
"Are you all right? Have you hit your head or something?"
No, it's not that." Terembor squeezes his eyes shut before opening them and blinking rapidly, looking around the room. "But a bit like it, I suppose. It's astral, very subtle, and everywhere. Then it moves into the etheric. From the etheric, it reaches the physical, manifesting like, oh, you know." He makes a vague gesture with his right hand.
"Luckily for you, I understand magical theory, so I know what you're getting at. But what is the point? What is the thing you're describing? Just say it already."
That's exactly it. That's the thing. It's like an immune system. It's fighting. Though it's an infection, it's both. Like a paradox. Or a hole. Like the edges of a hole. Yes, treat my words like the edges of a hole. Do you see?" Terembor makes a bothered face and massages his temples.
"Seriously, how are you feeling? You look like you're about to have a seizure or some kind of an attack, and you're not making much sense right now."
"Because it's here, now. It's fighting me, my mind. I'm not allowed." He pauses and stares with unfocused eyes, his face looking like he's in pain. "It's the graveyard. You should go there, yes. Go see for yourself that there's a hole, not the metaphor, or maybe that too. I don't know. It's difficult, painful even. I... Blood comes out of Terebor's nose and he wipes it with the back of his hand.
"This thing, whatever it is, I think you should just leave it alone. But what about the zombies? It sounded like you were going to object to us killing them."
Yes, but it's all connected. The unspeakable births itself from beyond the stars. Yes, it is here, everywhere. It's everywhere, beyond time, yet you cannot stay too long. You mustn't, or it will... the infection, everyone, everywhere. Terembor grabs his head and groans in pain. "The book, my book, take it. Janosch takes the book just as the man in the chair falls unconscious and hits his head on the table.
Terembor!
The witch hunter gently slaps the man on his cheek. At first nothing happens except that his nosebleed continues and stains the table, but after a few seconds he comes to and opens his eyes with a disoriented look on his face.
"Are you all right, Terembor?"
"Terembor? Who is Terembor? My name is Osyan Terembovich. How did I get here? Have you kidnapped me?" The man sees the blood on the table and wipes his face, looking clearly surprised by the blood that ends up on his hand. Janosch sighs.
No, I have not kidnapped you. You're free to go. A large piece of wood fell from a rooftop. It hit your head. That's why you're bleeding." He points to the man's nose. "But you're okay now, and I'm sure you have places to be and things to do."
The man, now calling himself Osyan, stands up.
Yes, and thank you, I suppose. It was kind of you to look out for me. He walks out of the house, leaving Janosch to wonder what the hell just happened. As soon as the man has left, the witch hunter steps outside, and he can see everyone gathered in the village square. He quickly walks over to them, and Friedrich gives him a questioning look, but the witch hunter simply shrugs and says, "Don't ask. I'm going to go check something that man said, but you'll be fine without me." Ismark looks at Janosch. "The next house has rats. I too have to go check something." The fighter acts as if he's going to leave. Janosch chuckles. "Very funny, but I won't be gone long. You can save the rats for when I'm back. I'm not being lazy." The fighter smiles. "I'm joking. Just go." Friedrich nods, and the witch hunter goes northwest towards the church. When he gets close, he heads straight for a mound just east of the graveyard, and once he has climbed it, he looks out over the tombstones, mausoleums, and trees. He doesn't really know what he's looking for, but the first two things he notices are how there's more mist in the slightly bowl-shaped graveyard area, and also how someone is visiting a grave. It looks like an old woman, and once she notices Janosch, she waves for him to come over. Seeing no one else and nothing out of the ordinary, the witch hunter finds a hole in the rusty old fence and walks over to the woman. As he gets closer, he can see that she's dressed like most commoners they have seen so far, but that her clothes are more colorful and in unusually good condition. Keeping a bit of a distance and staying vigilant, Janosch says, "Good day, ma'am. What can I do for you?" "We'll soon find out, Mr. Hertz, and do not be alarmed. I dabble in Tarokka, and the cards tell me many things, including your name." "Knowing my name isn't going to convince me you have any extraordinary gifts, but go on." "My name is Madame Eva, and I have come to give you some crucial information." The old woman sits down on a tombstone. "Normally I dwell with the Vistani, but I'm not actually one of them. I tell you this because you will wonder about my motives as you try to decide if you can trust me or not." "So, not being a Vistani, you cannot leave Barovia. Is that what you're trying to say?" The old woman nods. "Yes, I am as trapped here as you are. Also, I am as keen as you to see you know who destroyed." "Why the hesitation?" "For a long time, a very long time, I wanted him saved, I suppose. But I have had to reconsider." Janosch scrutinizes the Barovian, but fails to pick anything up. It is clear she's no ordinary old woman, but everything about her person is still completely ordinary. She smiles, a seemingly genuine smile, at the witch hunter, who tries to hide his frustration as he says, "Go on." "I know it bothers you, but I'm being very honest. There are things I will not tell you, but I will do my best not to lie by omission." Janosch shrugs. "I appreciate it, but you being honest and me trusting you are two different things. If you want me to trust you, I can get my commanding officer to put you under a prayer of truth." "That's not a good idea, and you know that. There's a reason why I was here waiting for you. If I wanted to meet Friedrich and the others, I could have sought you out anywhere. Or I could simply have remained by the Tseab pools, where I usually greet outsiders." "We have understood that we're not the first to come here from beyond the fog, so you make it a habit to meet people from the outside?" "Oh yes, very much so. But lately I have had to reconsider my role in things." Madame Eva falls silent and watches a raven that lands on the belfry of the church. The old woman stares at the bird, and once it seems like it's looking back at her, she shakes her head and makes a dismissive gesture as if to shoo it away. The raven tilts his head and caws. Then it flies off to the southeast. At first, Janosch sighs at the old woman's eccentric behavior, as he has had quite enough of weirdness for the day. Then he remembers that Strahd uses wolves and bats as spies. He turns to Madame Eva. "A spy from..." He points to Castle Ravenloft. "No, the ravens haven't served him for centuries." "But they did once?" The witch hunter reaches into one of his pouches and pulls out a Barovian gold coin. "That's the count, isn't it?" He points to the profile of a man with long hair, printed on one side, before flipping the coin over. "And this bird on the crest, is that a raven?" "Yes and yes, you're quite clever. Unfortunately, we don't have time for a history lesson. But if we manage to work together, we can meet again, eventually, and perhaps I will be able to tell you a few more things." "That sounds fair. Back to you and your role in things then. You said you have been meeting with the outsiders for a long time.
Yes, but as of late I have come to the realization that it is easy to gamble with other people's money. It's always the same, you see. The outsiders come, I point them to 3 special items that are their best bet if they want to defeat you-know-who. And then away they go, risking their lives for the cause while I sit safely in my tent.
And not only have they risked their lives.
Janosch looks around at the graves. Madame Eva nods. Exactly, and that's all I have done. Given advice to one disposable pawn after the other, always telling myself I was helping. But I am older than I seem, and what started as a brave and desperate struggle against the mighty Dark Overlord has, with time, degenerated into a repetitive cycle of gradual and inevitable death. The outsiders, like the Barovians, have tried their best, but whether strong or weak, all alike, they have fallen to the might of the Dreadlord. And now, if I'm honest, I have become part of the problem. I perpetuate the same cycle, sending group after group to look for the artifacts.
And all they find is death.
Janosch nods.
I commend your self-honesty, madam. It seems your introspection has opened your mind.
Yes, it tends to do that, and you should try it. In fact, you need to try it if you're going to be successful in Barovia. I know you're both a soldier and a witch hunter, but you're still much too quick to dish out death as if it had as little consequence to the world as it has to you.
Well, knowing that about me, you should probably choose your next words carefully then.
Madame Eva laughs and smiles another smile that seems completely genuine to the witch hunter. I like you, Janosch. You have a lot of potential, just like Friedrich, Seraphine, and Irina. And that's why we're having this conversation. Because you are different from those that came before you. And because of that, I am doing something different as well. The old woman pauses and looks up at the dark silhouette of the castle in the distance. I read cards for him, you know. And last time I introduced a dangerous idea to him, because I have come up with a new plan. I will still tell you about the items, the artifacts, and you should still seek them. But this time there is also the matter of the girl.
Irina? I'm going to assume you already know, but she is with us now. Though,
the old woman chuckles. Yes, you don't have to tell me, but it's actually an advantage, because I want to use her against you-know-who, as I believe with my help she can weaken him. And then, also, she'll be able to fetch you the most hard-to-get of the artifacts very easily. But it's another gamble with someone else's life.
She's not part of our church, and she's not going to be of any use in a fight against the Count. So, I see no problem with your plan.
It's not just her, though. Also, Seraphine will have to face great danger.
That's asking a lot. She is part of the church and an Azimai, under our protection at that. Do you have any idea what the punishment is if we return to Lutz and it's found out I had anything to do with her getting killed?
Oh, I know, but what if her taking this risk is the only way any of you are ever going to see a Gremlin again? Then what?
Then I don't see how we have any choice. But is that how it is? And why are you telling me? Why are you making this my choice?
Yes, I fully believe that to maximize our chances, we must do things as differently as we can. Otherwise, you too will find yourselves crushed under the wheel of time. And it is your choice because it is your choice. I'm just making you aware of that fact. Because the next time Seraphine and Irina ask if you want to come along, you can say yes, and the opportunity is lost.
Or I can say no, and take a chance on Irina weakening we know who. But then Seraphine and Irina are going to be in great danger, to the point where they risk dying.
The old woman nods. Yes, that is your choice. Now let me tell you what you need to know. I know you would not accept a reading of the cards, as such occult practices are heresy to you, so I will just tell you what I have learned.
Good, go ahead.
The first artifact is the one that is hardest to come by. It is a book called Liber Sanguinis, and it is his most treasured possession, and it never leaves his castle.
Wait. Why is it called Liber Sanguinis?
Those words are in the language of Locaire, yes, and that is a language spoken in Agremony, yes. But again, now is not the time for history lessons. You are, however, correct that there is a connection. Perhaps another reason you have so much potential, but I digress.
I have a lot of questions. I certainly hope we can meet again so I can ask all of them.
Just do what I ask and that can happen. Madame Eva gives Janosch a serious look, and even though he isn't sure what he will actually end up choosing, he nods. The old woman continues. The next item is a holy symbol, a figurine of a priest of Sethramelin. The witch hunter scoffs.
Really? Of Sethramelin in Barovia? It'll be very obvious if you're making this up.
The old woman laughs. What is Sethramelin called in the lands east of Agremony? Janosch thinks for a moment before saying,
I will have to ask Friedrich.
Or better yet, Seraphine. But trust me when I tell you I know better than to try to trick you, and it will all make sense in the end. But for now, know that the item is called the Icon of Ravenloft.
I'm not even going to comment on that name.
And that's for the better, as you'd only end up eating your words. Never argue with a psychic, young man. Madame Eva smiles. Now, the figurine was stolen from the castle a long time ago. Since then, it has moved around in Barovia, and at the time of my reading, it was in a place called Argynvost Halt. Probably lost there by an outsider sent by me.
I see. What is that place?
It's an old castle. It's haunted, however, not just by ghosts, so be very careful when you go there.
We have a lot of experience fighting the undead.
Yes, but Argynvost Halt has revenants, a few of them even. And I take it you know what that means. Janosch sighs deeply and nods. Good. Moving on to the third artifact then. A sword, enchanted with sunlight. I think you would like it. And I think it's obvious why it would be of great help. The problem, however, is that the cards were very vague. I was shown only darkness and some place that felt like it was underground. But it was also communicated to me that the weapon was in its owner's hands, and the owner is buried in the crypts under Castle Ravenloft, which sort of makes sense. But what doesn't make sense is why the castle's master would leave the sword there, as he knows how dangerous it is, and he has already tried to have it destroyed.
Maybe there's an entrance to the crypts. Perhaps we can enter the castle that way and look for the sword before we look for him.
Perhaps. At least now you know what you're looking for, so keep your eyes peeled. A friendly suggestion is to do what you're doing in the village in all of Barovia. Like the plan with Irina, I think it would weaken the Lord of the Land, at least temporarily. But, and this is important, never ever venture into the fog, and never try to fight it. It'll be the end of you.
What do you mean, fight the fog?
You'll know when you see it, trust me. Now, a few more things. I generally tell outsiders of an ally, but this time I don't need any cards.
Because it's Irina.
Madame Eva nods. Yes, it has to be, and you have to protect her. If she survives the plan, she will be stronger, but still no match for the one whose name we are avoiding. And you'll need her in the fight, so keep that in mind, and remind your allies.
Very well. What else?
Finally, I tell the outsiders where they can find him for the final fight. But for you, there's no point, because you will not seek out your enemy, rather he will seek you out. So work as hard and fast as you can to prepare yourselves, and be aware that time favors you in this place, and you will grow stronger very quickly.
Interesting. Why?
It has to do with the relationship between Agremony and Barovia. Time moves very slowly here, but it will be a while before you acclimatize, so to speak.
Very interesting.
Yes, Barovia may be miserable, but it's certainly not boring. There is much to be done and much to be learned, especially for you.
You mean because of Morgantha?
Indeed, good instincts. I know she worries you, but it's not as bad as it seems, because she's not as powerful as she thinks, or as she would like you to think. She wants to torment you, but she also needs you.
How so?
She's linked to you because you ended her just as she was beginning her death curse. So, through you she can access the material plane. Without you, she becomes like the other ghosts. Madame Eva gestures to the graveyard around them.
Wait, she looks just like the ghosts that rise from the earth right here. And in my dream she rose the same way, right over there.
Janosch points to the spot that is just some 5 feet away.
Is it about the graveyard? Her body is buried right over there. The witch hunter looks towards the mound to the east. So she doesn't have the power to dream in death. Is it something here? He looks around, but again has no idea what he's looking for. Madame Eva chuckles. You'll get there, but we have run out of time. I have other places I need to be to set everything in motion. And don't forget, we are in this together now. If you fail, it's just a matter of time before my road comes to an end as well. The old woman scoots off the tombstone and starts waddling off towards the gate to the south. Until next time, hopefully. Janosch feels as if someone has punched him in the brain from all the information and weirdness he has been subject to since waking up, but he composes himself and does his best to call out to Madame Eva. One last question. I was told to see something or find something here. Was that you, somehow? The woman stops and turns around. No, I think you already saw it. But the most interesting thing is in that mausoleum. She points to what amounts to little more than a big stone box just a few paces from the witch hunter. But I wouldn't draw my weapon if I were you, and only go if you can handle more weirdness. Goodbye, Janosch. The witch hunter almost laughs to himself as he steps up to the iron gate that seals the mausoleum. More weirdness is the last thing he needs today, but there's no way he's going to miss the most interesting thing in the graveyard. And for reasons that he cannot understand but definitely dislikes, he trusts Madame Eva. And from the way she said it, he is convinced he'll be alright if he doesn't draw his weapon. Could she have used magic on him? Some kind of suggestion spell? It seems unlikely. She could just have done that without the long talk and the information. On the other side of the iron gate are crude stone stairs leading down, and Janosch takes out a torch and lights it. Then he proceeds to venture down into the underground. And that is where we are going to leave the story this time, and I thank you very much for watching or listening, and hopefully I will see you in the next video.